Hello and welcome to another episode of Premed Office Hours. Thanks for joining us. This is episode 165. We are here to answer live any questions that you have regarding the medical school application process. So we have some members of the MSHQ Advising Team. My name is Courtney Lewis. I was a prior director of admissions. I've completed 1 year away from the medical school, having joined MSHQ and MAPT. And I am joined by two of my wonderful colleagues that have come from different schools. So Dina, you're right next to me. You want to go next?
Sure. Hi, I'm Dina Galini. I am former senior MD admissions officer from Stanford University School of Medicine and former assistant director of the SMP program at Brown University's Alpert Medical School, and happy to be here today.
Awesome. And Verinia.
Yes. Hello. I'm Verinia Granum, former Assistant Dean of Pre-Health and STEM Advising at Hofstra University here in New York. I've been with MAPT, can't believe it's been 2 years now. It feels odd to say that, but it's been amazing to help out our students here, and I'm looking forward to chatting with some folks today.
Yeah. So as you guys heard, we have kind of a wealth of knowledge we can share about the pre-med journey, the application process, no matter where you're at in it. If you're in a post-bac, you're wondering about a post-bac, you're a freshman looking to get kicked off on the right foot, or if you're reapplying to medical school and this is your third cycle. So anything and everything is on the table. We've got our first question here from D. Helene. So withdrew my primary app due to a 497 MCAT. Okay. Studying again for the MCAT, but now I'm worried with applying next cycle that it'll be 4 years out of undergrad. Do I need an SMP? So would hate to spend more money. What do you guys think? It's hard to answer. I will tell you, D. Helene, to answer if you need a special master's program without seeing your academics in front of us, so we can give you general information. I would think right off the bat with that MCAT, I'm a little bit concerned with your foundational knowledge from the coursework that you took that should directly apply to the MCAT material. But anybody else have any takes on what to suggest here?
Well, the fact that you've been out of undergrad for 4 years in and of itself is not an issue. It's whether or not you, like you said, you remember the material, you've prepared for it, and if you're, without having more information about your metrics, we can't really say whether or not you need an SMP. But just by itself, being 4 years out of undergrad isn't the issue. So maybe go back, look with the 497 MCAT, what are the areas that you feel like you still need help with and need to kind of brush up on those things. In terms of whether or not courses expire, things like that, schools have different rules around that. Some schools may want something that's dated within the past 5-10 years. So you do have to look at individual requirements at each school. And like you were saying before, Courtney, just really looking at whether or not the issue is a foundational understanding of that material so you can do better on the MCAT.
Yep. And there's different programs out there, right? Some of them can be, you kind of put them together yourself that really benefit you if you're not looking for a GPA booster. If you do a master's, your GPA is calculated a little bit differently than if you're doing post-bac work. And so there's a lot of nuance to what we would suggest in this case. We do have advising appointments. So if you want us to really dig into the meat of your application, any of us would be willing to do that, to kind of give you tailored context for what we're suggesting and why it would work for you and not somebody else, even if your situation is similar. Yep. So good luck. Okay. So next question. Hello, I'm currently shadowing a physician who is of a different specialty than why I chose to pursue medicine. Could that affect how admissions view my application?
I'll take that one. No. Yeah, so the point of shadowing is so that you are gaining experience and exposure to different specialties and, different avenues of medicine. It's very different to shadow a primary care physician in a free clinic as opposed to an orthopedic surgeon. So the point of shadowing is to give you exposure and to gain knowledge. So on applications, most applicants do shadow different providers in different specialties. So if you indicate on your application that you foresee yourself wanting to become a radiologist, admissions does not expect that all of your shadowing has to be in that area. In fact, it would be better to have a wide range of shadowing so that admissions knows that you've been exposed to different, environments, and just that you have knowledge of what kinds of specialties exist and what kinds of different patient populations exist. That's the main important thing.
Yeah, and just to kind of follow up to that, I know you may have an idea of kind of the specialty you want to pursue, but you may change your minds. Oftentimes that happens. You get to medical school and you get exposed to all these different things and you find that you're interested in other things. So don't worry about that and just keep an open mind.
And even if I guess they are saying it's a physician, it's not a dentist, it's not a physical therapist, right? It says just a physician. So we want you to have that context and that knowledge. Okay, next question. Keep them coming. All right, Kaylee, on optional anything else secondary questions, is it appropriate to explain why this school? That's a pretty straightforward one. Anybody want to take it?
Sure. Yeah. If they haven't asked that prior in any other prompt, then absolutely. That's a great opportunity for you to show why their school. Try to be specific and point out specific things that appeal to you. And I sometimes tell a student, if it's a school that's in your state, you can add at the end, after you've explained all the wonderful things that they offer that you're interested in, as an added bonus, the school is, close to my support system, whatever that may be. But this is a perfect opportunity to do that.
Any chance you get to kind of tie yourself to the school is always a good thing, right? Go ahead, Dina. Sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. I'm just piggybacking off what Verinia said. What I would not do is, you're my first choice and I really want to go here. And that is not, it's not the time for that. Explaining why this school, like Verinia said, like really try to make connections. So if you've done extensive research in, say, like neuroscience, and the school has a particular researcher or neuroscience institute that aligns with what you've done and what you want to do, that's a great example. If the curriculum particularly appeals to you, if it's a flexible curriculum that has early clerkships, early research, and that really speaks to you, talk about that. If you've already contributed to the outlying community of the town or the city that it's in, and you want to contribute that, continue doing that, then that's something to mention as well. But to please just don't say, it's my top choice and it's always been my dream and see you and everybody else. So,
yeah.
Be specific.
Yep. Okay. So I plan on retaking the MCAT in January, but have already applied this cycle with my previous score. Should I send an update letter to the schools once I receive my new score? Do I have a chance?
Take that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I would love to take this because this was one of my, it drove me nuts actually when I read at Stanford. So totally understandable that you're taking the MCAT later in the cycle that you've already applied. But keep in mind that on the admission side, if you indicated on your AMCAS a future MCAT date, then that's reflected on the admission side, and your application is basically not complete until they receive that score. So once that score is in, that automatically gets transferred, and admissions will see that from AMCAS. If you did not indicate on AMCAS that you were taking it, you have to add that in, because not every school will allow an update letter. Not every school will read an update letter and has the time or the manpower to say, oh, let me go and change something in their application. It doesn't work that way. Most like admission software programs pony over information from MCAS, and it's just really cumbersome and difficult for admissions people to add information in. So if you're counting on this January MCAT score as the go-to score to be evaluated, it might be a little too late. I don't know if Courtney or Brittany have anything else to add.
Nope.
No, it is a very late time to take it. You know, we're going to see that projected date. We're going to want the most up-to-date information to go based off of to do your evaluation. So, you know, it may be just on a holding pattern until that point.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's keep moving. All right, Manal, I'm a certified EMT going into sophomore year of college. I have ride-along hours this summer, but can only be an EMT next summer because extra training. Can I count these hours as clinical in addition to actual ones later? So the ride-along hours this summer, prior to extra training, can those be counted as clinical, is how I'm interpreting this.
I guess it depends on what they're doing. If you're just riding along, observing and shadowing, then no. But if you're at a point where your supervisor or preceptor or whoever's training you is comfortable letting you, handle some cases, then yeah, those hours would count. So it really depends on what you will be doing on those ride-alongs.
Yeah. Okay. If you're not the one providing care and you're still in a training setting, probably not. But you're going into your sophomore year. You still have lots of time to get your certification and to accumulate hours. So it wouldn't be the end of the world here. And you do want to try to be as accurate as possible with the hours that you're kind of cataloging and categorizing. So I agree.
And just having the certification, I just want to add, is not enough, right? Once you have that certification, you actually do still have to continue and work in that, get training, get not training, additional experience as an EMT. So keep that in mind.
Okay. Let's go. All right. Shrat. When should applicants start planning for next cycle?
Great question.
Pretty big question, I would say.
Yeah. I think it depends on how you feel about your current application. If you've applied already, it sounds to me like you might be having some doubts. It's never too early to start looking at things, but in terms of actually having a plan in place, we say usually if you haven't received an interview by November, early December, that's a good time to start reviewing areas in your application where you think you can improve, or maybe sit with an advisor or someone who's familiar with this process that can help you figure out what those things are, what were the weaker areas of your application, so that you have enough time before May of the next year or June of the next year to work on those things. Maybe it's your MCAT score. Maybe it's you needed to, improve on clinical experiences. So if you wait until April to do that, it's way too late, right? So this is why I'm saying it's never too early. You can always start thinking ahead now. But typically around end of November, if you haven't heard anything or received any interview invites, that's a good time to start exploring that. Good luck.
Yeah, and also, start thinking about those letters of recommendation. You want to make sure that you ask your recommenders, by February, really the latest, to really secure that they will be writing letters. Make sure you're giving them all the information that they need to submit the letters, what the requirements are in terms of letters being on letterhead and dated and signed. Don't wait till the last minute and to ask recommenders, because that's just going to hold up your application if your letters aren't in.
Yeah. And if this is your first time going to be filling out an application, things take a lot longer, I think, than a lot of applicants anticipate. Your personal statement, it's not you open the application, you're like, okay, I'm going to write my personal statement. Usually it goes through a lot of different iterations, a lot of different drafts. You certainly want somebody to kind of proofread it for you, check the tone, check the thought process. There is kind of a strategy for how to write it and what content we need to see in it. It's not an about me topic or narrative. There's a purpose to it. So usually we see people, right, at the end of the year or beginning of the year that they're applying in January, kind of starting to prep that, starting to write the essays for their activities and do the most meaningful sections if you're doing AMCAS. And there's going to be a lot of writing. And then once you complete all of the writing for your primary application, you start pre-writing your secondaries. And that is actually the most writing you're going to do in the application. And I think a lot of people, they're really relieved to get their primary application done, and then they get hit by a tidal wave of secondary, which we're kind of just getting to the tail end of now for the application cycle that opened a couple of months ago. So prepping all of this and giving yourself time for the proofreads, for the rewrites, for kind of making sure you're putting your best foot forward is essential to having a really polished looking application. So months ahead of time is when you're prepping for the cycle that will open in May, June. Okay. All right. Okay, Tisha, by the time I enter medical school, I'll be 39. I'm a little worried about my age. I'm a registered nurse for 10 years and now work in CV Neuro ICU. That's okay. Totally fine.
That's okay.
Totally. Yep. We had an applicant last cycle who I believe is 54, starting medical school this year. Yep. So you're fine.
Yep. I have somebody that just graduated from medical school this past class. She's now in her first year of residency. She went to Alaska, which was her top choice, actually. She wanted to be there. But she was a registered nurse for actually over 10 years. We graduated college at the same time, and she went through, had a very great career, and was helping hospital administration, doing research and things like that, and was ready to make that pivot. Went to medical school. She's got kids. Now she's a doctor. So absolutely doable, not going to be held against you. As long as you know why you're pursuing becoming a doctor, and it's not just, I want to be the boss. You have to have something a little bit stronger than that. This won't count against you. You're going to be, getting back into academics can be difficult. The MCAT can certainly be difficult, but you're going to be ahead on all of the clinical skills and the bedside manner teaching and the standardized patients and things like that. So it's a little bit of a give and take, but certainly not something that will keep you out of medical school. Okay, lifestyle with grace. GPA dropped due to changing schools and working more, but it's slowly rising and I'm in my senior year. Is it logical to still apply next year, or should I wait to complete my senior year? What do we think?
So this depends.
Yeah, this is one of those we need more information type questions.
Yeah.
What I would say, lifestyle with grace, is check out mapped.com. It's our premier software tool or web-based tool that allows you to enter in all of your courses and all of your activities and actually see on a graph what your GPA looks like right now. And you can actually chat with an advisor within the system itself, so we can give you feedback that way. So I would say go on, you can get a 30-day free trial on map.com. Enter your information, reach out to one of us in there within the chat feature, and we can give you some feedback, because it really will depend on what your trends look like. Taking an extra year to work on your application is okay. If that's what you're worried about, is it okay that I'm taking this long? I need more gap years. That is not a problem at all. But we can definitely take a look and give you more feedback.
Yeah, I think if your GPA looks like it's kind of yo-yoing, there may be a little bit of risk associated with that, and so it's really putting your best foot forward sometimes means extending or having some distance between that dip and the time of your application to show that you're a stronger student. But yeah, here to help for that. Ryan, I transferred schools after my sophomore year and spent a long time making up lost credits through winter and summer classes. Worried that my coursework looks all over the place. Should I be concerned? Depends. Favorite answer.
It depends.
I mean, we can see that there's fluctuations. We get it in chronological order. It will all be laid out for us, so we'll be able to kind of track that. If we're seeing that you're making up classes in the summer, I don't particularly see that as too problematic, but some schools may want to see it. I think it depends at the type of institution you're taking it at as well. If you're taking summer courses at a community college to kind of fill in those foundational prerequisite courses, it may be slightly more frowned upon than if you were taking that at a four-year institution. So again, we need a little bit more information to be able to tailor our messaging. It could affect it, but anybody else have anything to add there?
Yeah, I think, also explaining that in your application, if, you transferring schools was, impactful or something happened during that time, you can make that clear to admissions and write about that, which is perfectly acceptable.
Omar, better to graduate and go back for pre-med classes with loans or extend my undergraduate to complete prereqs with financial aid and have extra semesters fall under my senior GPA, finances, or trend? Thanks. What do you guys think from working with so many pre-meds?
So it really depends on your situation. I don't know that we can answer this. It's a financial decision, it seems like to me. It doesn't matter in terms of how your application looks. It just looks like you did what you needed to do to graduate and bring up your GPA. There may be some potential advantages to doing post-bac work, depending on when you do it, right? This whole idea of, being a different student now than you were back then. So sometimes having a break in between helps because you kind of mature a little bit more. Maybe you're more organized and disciplined, or it could be the opposite, right? You take a break from school and now you can't get back into it. So that aspect of it, that whether or not it'll look any different on your application won't really matter as long as you're making improvement and you're showing an upward trend. As to whether you should do it as an undergrad or after graduation, that's something that you would have to decide what's better for you financially. What do you all think?
I agree. I don't really see much of a difference when I'm looking at it. If it's right before you graduate and it's extending that, it does affect your GPA. You're right, it does. But if you take them in a post-bac setting and they're still undergraduate courses, it's all going to get looped in there anyway. So if that's what you're asking, this will be kind of up to you. It's going to fit in that GPA because of the type of class that it is. So
to do what's best for you, Omar.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Hi. Is taking care of a sick family member counted as clinical experience? I mostly drive my mom to doctor's appointments, interpret, monitor blood pressure, and help her in the ER. Is it clinical? We still need one of those buzzer sounds, like a game show.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
I see this as clinical experience. Obviously, it shouldn't be your only experience with a patient because it's very different to care for a family member than caring for someone who's not related to you. But it is still experience in the sense that you are supporting your mother, taking her to doctor's appointments. You're probably there almost shadowing the doctor, honestly, seeing what they're doing as well. And you're actually monitoring her blood pressure. So it's okay to have this as clinical experience. It just shouldn't be your only experience.
I agree.
Yep.
I think it's clinical, but like Vernia said, just make sure you're not counting on this being the only clinical experience.
Yep.
Right.
A
Okay.
secret sauce.
Back with another question for us. Okay. Is there a secret
Why do
sauce?
I feel like I'm going to get this question?
Is there a secret sauce medical schools are looking for? I can't imagine what it's like to sort through thousands of applicants. You are right. It is tough. It is tough. Thousands and thousands of applicants, all very qualified, all having somewhat similar experiences to kind of prep them to get them to this point, similar coursework and things. So what are some things that are helpful to see in applications? I'm not sure if there's just a one-size-fits-all secret sauce, because then we wouldn't have any diversity or uniqueness to our classes, but what are some things that can be helpful to see? I could kick it off too.
Yeah, no,
Okay,
I'll take this. It's fine.
Yeah.
So first of all, Rainia, there is no secret sauce. I wish there was, having been, on the side of sorting through. But firstly, understand that, it's an operation, right? Admissions is an operation where it's not just, one person or 3 admissions officers reading applications. There's often external readers, academic medicine faculty, professors, physicians who are alumni, lots of external readers, lots of hands in the pot to help things go smoothly. And all of those readers are trained to find people who are good fits for the medical school. And good fits meaning not necessarily a secret sauce, but do you align with the mission of the school? Do you align with the vision of the school? Would you be a good contribution, a unique contribution to a medical school class? I often heard in admissions committee, this is an amazing applicant. They don't necessarily need to become a doctor here at our institution. They don't necessarily align with our missions, our values. And so I think that that's what schools are looking for, to see that you're a good fit, because at the end of the day, those thousands and thousands of applicants are all going to make great doctors and all going to succeed and all going to do well, but admissions cannot accept everybody. I hope that was a good answer.
Yeah. It matters, when you're sifting through thousands of them, I think that's where the polish of your application will really come into play. Did you take time on your secondaries to make sure there wasn't any typos, that they were well written, that we can track your thought process? There's kind of the fit and finish of things, where if you're reading thousands of them and you have 2 people that have similar academics, but one gives you really polished, thorough answers, and you could tell that they really put a lot of thought into their responses, and somebody else who was very lackluster, who gave you like a sentence and not much depth to it, who do you think we're going to go with? Then easy. You go for the person that looks like they put in effort, that they are invested in it. Sometimes that's why secondaries are a bit longer, because they're looking for people who are willing to put in that effort and to give them responses and to be vulnerable and share that type of information or have depth of character. So I think a lot of it comes through in the application. When you're seeing a lot of them, you can tell. And so don't leave any parts of your application blank. Take your time on them, give yourself enough time to do them, submit them on time, get your secondaries turned around quickly if that's possible. And those are all things that will really help you and show that you are motivated. And then do your research on the schools, right? Just like Dina was saying, it's important that you have experiences maybe that they're looking for or that fit their mission. If you look at kind of their core values and where they say they want to place physicians at the end after they graduate, does that align with what you want and what you want to pursue? So there's all kinds of things like that that go into it, not just one data point, because if it was just the MCAT and GPA, that hardly whittles down anybody. So we have to look for these other things, having jobs, knowing that you're able to hold a job and balance school and extracurriculars and hobbies, your own life. Those are all things for resilience and time management. So we're looking at all of it a lot.
And just to add to that really quickly, it's at the end of the day, yes, fit is important, but they also want to accept candidates that want to be there and they've shown their passion and their dedication to the field and not just superficially explored, a few things here and there. Have you had a commitment to really helping and serving in your community in some way? And that can be as simple as on campus. If you're a college student, you've gone above and beyond just joining a club, but you've done things with the club. If you're an older applicant with 10 years of experience, what have you done in that time? Maybe you had a previous career, that's fine, but what have you done to align yourself with medicine in some way? And how have you sought ways to serve and help in your community? So that, I guess, is the secret sauce. It's having that passion, if you want to call it that. A lot of times people forget that this isn't just, let me present this beautiful picture. This is being authentic. Strip away all that other stuff. At the end of the day, in your core, are you someone that's willing to, kind of sacrifice for the betterment of others? At the end of the day, that's how I see it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't just go through the motions.
Keyword, be authentic, be genuine.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Abel, how should we answer why us in a medical school interview, including something more specific than what is found on the website? Yes. I don't want the website regurgitated back to me when I'm in an interview. And I would say fewer things fall flatter in a med school interview than if I say, why do you want to come here for your medical education? And you give me this bland, generic, I think I'm well prepared and I think I'll get a good medical education here and I like the mission. That gives me nothing. It gives me nothing to go based off of. I can't envision you here. I don't really believe you in thinking that I'm ranking anywhere in your top choices because you can't give me anything specific. So I would say think of medical schools being extremely egotistical, and they have precious seats that they could give out, and they only have about 400 interviews that they do, and they want to fill their class. But, in totality, they have like 6,000 applicants. If you can't, with passion or enthusiasm, tell me specifically why the two of us will be a good fit for your medical education, then I'm going to say, great, go be successful somewhere else. Because I want people who are fully bought in to my school and wanting to be here, not that it was just this lackluster option or a backup option. So just think of them as egotistical and answer as such, right?
Agreed.
I want people who want to be there. I have the option to pick. That's the reality of it. And so give me something concrete on why you want to be there, because I'll pick somebody else. That's just the reality. So, all right. Okay, next question. I still haven't applied this cycle. 511, 3.85 GPA. Decent shadowing, research, and volunteer experience. Should I apply this cycle or wait for next cycle? Why?
Why?
Applied this cycle.
Why?
Yeah.
Why haven't you applied yet? Yeah.
It's late.
I mean, is all hope lost? Not necessarily, but you've certainly curbed your options, I would say. If you're applying through a COMIS for DO schools, more of those schools tend to have rolling admissions and longer interview cycles. So maybe it would still work. Not for all of them, certainly not for all of them, but you've kind of missed the main window, I would say.
Because interviews are happening. I mean,
yeah.
well, interviews are happening as we speak at a
Mhm.
number of schools. And once interview seats start filling up, you know, you go to admissions committee, and then, you know, acceptances start rolling out. And now there's thousands and thousands and thousands of applications in the pool at each school. And you've just set yourself up where it's late in terms of being a competitive applicant. But you have to do what's, you know, what's best for you.
Yeah, I mean, professionally speaking, you know, do you have all of your application materials ready at this point? Because if not, that's going to take some time to get everything in there. Say you hit submit tomorrow. You're still looking at a verification time, which means that they're going to be checking that the things that you submitted are valid before it goes to the medical school. Then once you're verified, which takes anywhere from 4 to 6, potentially even 8 weeks, then it goes to the medical school. Then they will determine if they want to send you a secondary, which you have to fill out and then submit back. And then you go into a queue. And we're already looking there at a couple of months if you hit submit tomorrow. So that's why we're saying it kind of compounds really quickly with timing, and why it may be late, even though the cycle only opened 2-3 months ago, is because the back end timing of when your application is actually viewed as complete is going to be probably about 2.5 months from now.
Yep.
Which is generally about the end of interview season in general. And people usually have about a 30 to a 90-day window to book interviews. And so interview invites are going out now. They're going to book them up. So even if you do submit your secondary, you may be at the very tail end and you're waiting for a spot to maybe open up. So tough road ahead if you're applying. So you may want to think about just holding until next cycle. And then you're not with decent shadowing, you're with a very strong shadowing portfolio and clinical experience and research and volunteering. You're coming in stronger, you're getting in the ideal timeline. It may just be better. Okay. All right, Garrett. I've worked in clinical pathology as a microbiologist for almost 2 years now. I'm curious if this counts as clinical experience since I'm not in direct contact with patients. No, it doesn't.
Yep, that was simple. Yeah. Clinical experience is any experience where you're directly impacting the health of another human being.
So it's still really great experience and the content will be applicable. They're still going to like seeing it, but no, it doesn't count as All right. Next question. John, in what months should we send letters to schools that allow them? Is November good? Thank you.
Yeah, I'll take this one.
Sure.
So first of all, John, make sure that you know each school's policy. Some schools won't accept update letters at all. Some will only accept them if you've been interviewed, and after the interview, they welcome them. You definitely do not want to send an update letter to a school that does not accept them. It's going to just be annoying and look like you didn't do your research. I would say if you applied right at the beginning of the cycle when it opened and you haven't heard anything by October, November, then sending it by Thanksgiving, by the end of November is usually, you know, what I would do with my former students at Brown. Because come December, there's not much happening in admissions. There might be a few admissions committee and interview dates, but then the second half of December is usually, you know, holiday break. And so you want to make sure that that letter kind of gets in before any finalizations happen for interview invites, you know, for the new year. And then just make sure that your update letter is very brief. It shouldn't be, 100% should not be more than a page. It should not reiterate anything that's in your AMCAS. It should only discuss updates, right? Like any new publications, any new jobs, what you've continued doing that's really important and meaningful to you. But just don't use it as a platform, to beg, to say it's my favorite school, I really want an interview, and to just go over everything that's already on your MCAS. Update means updates.
Okay, let's keep trucking. Sandro, I will be transferring from community college to a four-year university next fall as a pre-med. Any tips? Should I take the MCAT that year I transfer, as I'll be a junior? Thanks.
Yeah, I can take this one. I've worked with so many undergrad pre-meds in this position. As far as transferring goes, be willing to, as soon as you're on campus, find academic support services, connect with professors, connect with the pre-med clubs on campus, because you want to have a strong support system. You're probably shifting into harder upper level courses now. And hopefully you have those study skills in place. If not, then you have to kind of get cracking and really have that support system in place so that you are successful. Things do get a little harder when you transfer. In terms of the rigor of the courses, because you're probably taking upper level ones too. So connect with the pre-med office on campus if there's one, or the pre-health advising office on campus, and just get access to those resources early on, and connect with professors, because these are the folks that potentially could be writing recommendation letters for you down the road. I wish you the best of luck. It's not impossible. You'll do fine. You just want to make sure that you have a strong support system there. And as far as when to take the MCAT, take it when you're ready. There's no rule that says that you have to take it in your junior year. Obviously, it impacts your timeline if you're trying to apply in your junior year, etc. But we really recommend that you take it when you've done all the courses, all the prereqs that you need to, and you have that foundation. Don't try to rush the MCAT. There's no advantage to that. You just want to plan to take it maybe January or March of the year in which you decide you're going to apply. So if you decide you're applying in 2025, plan to take it in January or March of that year and have the necessary coursework already under your belt to prepare for that. Good luck, Sandro.
Yep. Agreed. Don't rush that MCAT.
No need.
Don't do it.
Don't
you
do
have
it.
to have physics 2 done, biochem.
Yeah.
Your Orgo 2 done. You have to have all of those things done, completed, material retained before you're even thinking about sitting for it. So,
yep, psych, soc, all that.
Yep. All right, Elizabeth, should I apply this spring, though I don't qualify for my school's committee letter? I have clinical letters, an upward trend for GPA, volunteer hours, extracurricular, and I take the MCAT in April. I'm okay with it.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not every school is going to require you to take advantage of the committee letter. We understand that there are certain deadlines, cutoffs, things that they take into account for who they're going to write committee letters for. So as long as you meet my letter of recommendation requirements, I'm not super put off by that fact. I can't speak for absolutely every school, but if you meet the letter requirements and you have a strong application, I don't see why not. Anybody else have anything?
Yeah, I agree. If you meet the letter requirements for the school and you have a strong application, then it really, to me, doesn't matter if you take advantage of the committee letter. You do mention in your question you have clinical letters, but you do, just so you know, you do need more than just clinical letters, right? So you need, unless you meant you have clinicals and letters completed. If you're ready to apply, then don't let that stop you.
You'll need science professors, just so you know. Okay, Tisha. When should I take the MCAT in 2024 if I plan on applying next year to medical school? I was thinking mid-April. What do you think? Brinia, you kind of touched on this just a second ago. You want to just clarify for that timeline?
Sure. Yeah, so typically, like I said before, we recommend that you take it in January or March, or even April of the year in which you're applying. But if you're applying next year, so 2025, I'm assuming, or no, sorry, I misunderstood. Yeah, if you're applying in 2024 and you're ready to take it by January or March, that would be ideal, because you want to have that score in hand before the application cycle even opens. And then you can decide if you need to retake it, what your game plan is going to be. I think mid-April is okay, but it gives you a little bit more cushion if you take it a little bit earlier. I would not recommend taking it later than that, though, if you're ready. Yeah, no later than April.
All right, telemedicine. Following up on the question, secret sauce. Can you please give examples of the types of medical schools, examples, research or service-oriented, any school or any others? School mission statements are very similar. Yes, they are. That's fair.
I can answer this. School mission statements are very similar. A perfect example would be Georgetown. I love Georgetown so much. Just do. I don't know why. It's so beautiful there. You know, they're a Jesuit institution where their foundation is on cura personalis, you know, the care of the whole person, going out into the world and serving others. And so if admissions doesn't see cura personalis and doesn't see that in the application, then you're not a good fit, because that's infused in everything that they do. It's infused in their curriculum and all of their student organizations, all of the clinics that they're a part of, the hospital clerkships, policy work, any opportunities that you would have there is centered around that cura personalis. I think they even have you can do a fellowship, a cura fellowship, where you can really expand on that there. They're very clear about how important that is to them. So if your application really doesn't speak to that, you're not a good fit.
Yeah. So I think looking not necessarily at the mission statement alone, because you're right, they are similar. Looking at the core values and the outcomes that they're looking for, that will tell you kind of what qualities and characteristics that stand out to them that they want to see. And the outcomes will talk about, where do they want their graduates to end up? Does that align with your goals? Like we kind of talked about. If they're saying, I think Inland Empire is a good example. They're very clear that they want their graduates to be in the Inland Empire, be all about it, or Texas. They want Texas graduates in Texas practicing medicine for Texans. And if you're coming from outside of that world, or that doesn't align, or you don't have any experience with populations that are similar to those, then you may not be a good fit for that school, because they're going to want people that will fulfill their mission with these outcomes that they're hoping to see from their graduates. So I would look more to those types of things than just the mission alone, because a lot of missions are to train culturally competent physicians to, progress medical research and, things like that. But it's in the outcomes of where they want their graduates. Or do they receive a lot of NIH funding, right? Or federal funding for research?
Yeah.
That would be
research driven.
Research. Yeah. So looking at things like that should help you. Or clubs and organizations on school. Like, what are their students involved in? Do they have a student-run clinic? Are they very community-driven and focused? Or do they only have kind of national clubs and organizations, and then, their students during summer electives are mainly doing research? Or are they talking about providing care in rural areas, and so their rotations are in rural areas, and the clubs and activities they have are kind of based on that? So those are some areas you can kind of look at to differentiate between schools, I think. Okay.
I think that's the last question.
Yeah. Anybody have any last minute questions for us? Let's see. I'm going to look through them really quick. There is one. Let me show it.
Okay.
This one, Abel, how in-depth should research be discussed in an interview, especially if it is very detail heavy? Thanks.
think it depends what you're being asked,
Mhm.
right? It depends on the question. And are you applying MD, PhD, like an MSTP program? I think it all depends on the question.
Yeah, and it depends on who is also interviewing you. Sometimes
Good point.
committee members aren't necessarily physicians, or they may not have that research background. So depending on who your audience is, you may need to kind of simplify things a little bit. If it's a faculty member that's very familiar with your research area, then you can be as detailed as you want to be. But it really does depend on the question, as Dina was just saying. Okay.
You definitely want to know at least what you're doing, what your role is, maybe what the outcome is of things that you're looking at, because you don't want to include research in your application and then not be able to say anything to it. Because then it looks like you kind of aggrandized or maybe stretched how involved you were. So, okay, well, do we want to talk about any advising updates to Mapped? Because there are kind of a lot of updates to the actual application of Mapped that are coming out. So if you guys haven't been on in a while, there's a lot that is kind of changing and getting revamped and improvements. We've got MappedCon coming up. I see the ticker at the bottom that just reminded me about that. Anything we can share there?
It's still an amazing tool. It's still something that you can use throughout your cycle, and even earlier. Actually, the earlier you're using it, the better, to be able to track your pre-med journey, and pre-PA if you're a physician assistant or interested in physician assistants, that career path as well. Yeah, check it out. We also have MappedCon coming up. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's okay. Yeah, and with Mapped, it's also helpful, like if you're sophomore, junior, anything like that, you can share that information and pick and choose which information you want to share, but you can share it with your pre-med advisor too. I know a lot of the times they want updates on things, they want tracking, and if you don't have a really clean way to kind of show them that, this would be a good option. They get a free account, you get a free account, and you can just show them the things that you've been tracking with your experience, your GPA trends, what you're enrolled in with courses. We've got resources there. We have, you can pick your favorite medical schools and it'll show you if you've completed their prereqs or not. So it's got all of that tracking. If you want, you can, get the part that also allows you to connect with us. And then, yeah, MappedCon. Let's talk MappedCon.
We'll all be there.
Yeah. We'll be there. Come hang out with us.
Yeah.
So as you guys know, we all come from having pre-med and medical school backgrounds. We have decided to do an in-person conference to kind of kick back off after COVID. And I will die on the soapbox, but in-person connections with medical schools is so important. You guys are so many questions about secret sauce and how do I stand out and how do I build rapport, how do I get out of the tens of thousands of applicants. Going to health fairs like this and actually connecting with somebody from the school, having some FaceTime, building that rapport, standing out, asking them questions, being involved. And we invited a bunch of our friends who are deans and directors at these medical schools to show up, to be available to you guys. We have so many amazing medical schools coming that if you guys don't show up, it's a missed opportunity, I would say. It's worth your time. And thinking to kind of an older generation of people who are going to be the ones determining if you get a seat or not. They serve on AdComs. They like in person. Not all of them love this virtual format. They like kind of the tried and true in-person connection. And with interviews being virtual, with fewer on-campus tour days and things like that, this is really one of the only opportunities you're going to get to connect with people in person. Okay, I'm done. Anybody else have anything?
No, that's amazing. It's going to be, yes, and there's going to be tons of workshops on different topics. We'll all be there as well. providing assistance and education on this whole process. And really the value is in meeting with other pre-meds and pre-health students and meeting with admissions folks and meeting with us too. Finally get to connect with you all in person. So come check us out, mapcon.com. You can book your tickets there.
It's really affordable.
All right.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank
We
you.
had a lot of questions. Hopefully that helps. We'll be back again next week, and keep an eye out, track for workshops. We do free workshops sometimes. Talk to us through the Mapped app, schedule advising appointments if you need more one-on-one time, but we're here and available. Have a good week.
Awesome. Bye.
Bye.